Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are talking wrestling today, and there is of course plenty to discuss. The big news that has hit our airwaves recently is about more releases, and the big one is of course, if you check my thumbnail, good old-fashioned R-Truth, who's been with the WWE for a very long time, has left, or will be leaving I should say, the WWE in a couple of weeks when his contract Oh, thank you for letting me know there, Everton. Appreciate you. I missed the button. Or will be leaving the WWE in very short order. He's not the only one. There are plenty more who unfortunately will be leaving and have already been told that they will not have their contracts renewed. There's only a few where the information is public. That is what we'll be discussing today. I don't have anything on Valhalla, but Ashley, thank you for bringing that in. She has announced on her Instagram that WWE have told her that her contract will not be renewed. She has not been available to them. She has not wrestled essentially at any point, and that is the main reason they are not intending to use her in the near future. When it comes to something like Evolution coming up, WWE have reassessed pretty much their entire women's division, particularly with the talent coming up from NXT, and there is also a lot of reassessments happening in general around the WWE, which is why more experienced members of talent are the ones who are going to be leaving. I can see many questions about others. I will be getting to those, but I'm going to start by going into detail about what's going on with R-Truth. I'm going to break up some of the contract talk because it is a lot about many different people. So I'm just going to start by focusing primarily on R-Truth, which I know everyone's been very focused on. R-Truth's release was planned earlier in the year by Nick Khan. He did appear on a cost-benefit analysis list, but with his contract so close to finishing anyway, WWE decided they'd let it expire so that there wasn't a payoff. Knowing that this was coming, and of course wondering why his contract wasn't being renewed, John Cena took the opportunity to create an opportunity, trying to essentially convince the WWE that there was a lot of life left in this old dog, as it were. The WWE were not convinced, and in fact, this is the main reason that the match at Saturday Night Main Event was advertised as a non-title match. They didn't want to take even the slightest risk that something could go wrong and a champion could leave the company with the belt. R-Truth has been told he will essentially be going out on his back, and we've seen that over the last few weeks. As regards the reason for this, while he was in a major program, he was not someone they considered as reliably a main eventer. He was not someone that they even considered a main eventer, hence why, of course, Jey Uso and Logan Paul main evented instead. But it actually goes a little deeper than that. There are some in WWE who were concerned that R-Truth is simply a relic of a Vince McMahon era that they're trying to move away from, and that he was too clearly tied to the previous man upstairs. I'm going to be very careful here. Very careful here. Thank you for that gift, Ed. I'm going to be very careful about what I say. At the moment, there is an active lawsuit against the WWE and Vince McMahon, and I cannot, in any good conscience, speculate that this is in any way connected. There is no evidence of that at this point in time. However, just to play devil's advocate for a moment, there are certainly people within the WWE who believe that there is too close a relationship and are eager to see certain relationships broken down. Speaking purely hypothetically, part of the lawsuit was that a number of people in the WWE were shown imagery by Vince McMahon. And while I am certainly not aware of any individuals whom that may have been about, even if I was aware, it would be one of those things that I couldn't make blatantly obvious anyway. Pure speculation on that part, naturally. Thank you very much for the chat rate boosting. I see all of you and I appreciate all of you. We're nearly at 100 people on YouTube already. And Ed, thank you very much for the gifts. Just going to do a quick count there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to count that as 10 because why not? We're going to round up. So everyone is aware, we're going to do a slight tweak of the system here. Still on YouTube, every pound, every dollar results in a squat. But because a total of 275 were dropped on me on Friday's show, I have had to reconsider how we're doing this on TikTok. The video, and I'll be sharing that in a moment. Everton, don't worry, it's coming. The video, and I'll be sharing that in just a moment, is 44 minutes long and took me essentially 3 days to do because I did nearly 100 each day. So it was a case of 100, 175. I can't do more than that. So I can't in good conscience promise you that I'll be able to. Now, if we're in a situation where someone's donating £100, I'm still going to do that. But on TikTok, it was roughly £3 of a donation. Still very generous, and it's McCade. I do want to be clear. I am very grateful because in addition to the financial benefit, on TikTok, you've always got extra. Now, TikTok works in tiers. And the higher a tier you get to is based on how many gifts someone gives. The higher a tier you get to, the more the show grows. So it's McCade, you personally guaranteed additional growth of this TikTok channel. So I'm incredibly grateful. And with this in mind, because you donated for 275 squats, I'm going to pin a tweet right now, which just says squat and drops a link. It is 44 minutes long. You'd have to be insane to watch it. But there you are. Thank you once again for your generosity. And once again for the generosity of everyone who comes here to watch ads, who comes here to keep me company, who chats, who clicks like. Every one of you I want to say thank you to. Now, before we get to before we catch up with the chat, I do want to briefly get onto the next piece of news because it is related to what I've just said. There are rumours now in WWE based on the reaction that The Miz is nervous about his contract situation. To my knowledge, it does not have that long left to run, and he doesn't necessarily believe that he's in a position where he can guarantee his future. These are only rumours at this point in time based on his reaction on social media, but the latest cost-benefit analysis list did feature a number of people in WWE who've never been on a cost-benefit analysis list before. Multiple-time world champions are on this list because ultimately the amount that they have cost increases year on year. So WWE are looking for savings. Thank you, Marcel, for the chat rate. Thank you, Ed, for those generous donations. What I'm going to do on TikTok going forwards, instead of every gift results in a squat, every 5 gifts results in a squat. That way, you will still get 55 It's McCade, just so everyone is clear. Just so everyone is clear. That's the situation there. We will be talking about Kross in just a moment, Everton. Say just a moment. It's later on in the show. We'll be discussing, as per our headlines, Logan Paul and John Cena pairing, why that's happening. The current push of Jey Uso and why it's so intense. We'll talk Carlito. We'll talk Shinsuke Nakamura. We're going to talk the reaction backstage at Evolution 2. We're going to talk Wyatt 6, why they're joining the tag division. And we're also going to talk Karrion Kross and why he's not getting regular TV time. So plenty still to discuss, but I just wanted to clarify the situation there. Every donation on YouTube, every pound or every dollar will be a squat. Every 5 on TikTok will be a squat as well. So just before I start catching up with the chat, 2 squats for Ed. Thank you very kindly, Ed. Nice and quick. I don't have to, oh my God, because I've already done 75 today. I suspect these might take me a moment. So, I'm just going to start catching up with the chat from where we are. Sheamus, to my knowledge, Everton has been discussed. That's as far as it went. Welcome, Red Slayer. Good to see you. Just going to go from where I am on the chat. Thank you, it's McCade. I appreciate you. Sid says, MVP says he has 0 respect for Paul Levesque. Okay. Anthony says Mariah May hopes she'll go to WWE NXT. Era of Penta, been a little while, mate, good to see you. Says the Cross situation doesn't seem to be getting better. Ken says what you're saying pretty much, Tom, is if TKO does not see you as a star, you're going to be gone. Yeah, that's exactly right. And answer say, Tom, do you expect some more names whose contract might not be extended by WWE? Yes, we definitely haven't heard all of the names. We definitely have not heard all of the names. Pete, it's definitely not wrong if she's the one posting it. I promise you that. KJ says, do you all want Cross in Money in the Bank so you can turn him after he wins? People are fans. They're allowed to be fans, mate. Declan says, any news on Becky Lynch? We will be discussing Becky Lynch, though it will be in relation to a different report. Khalid is excited for Wyatt 6 News. Eric says, Tom, I have questions about what Cora said on the Ariel Helwani show. If what she said about her pregnancy is true, why was she wrestling 2D? If it's true, then Braun has a lot of explaining to do. I have no idea what you're referring to, Eric. I'm going to need some context. Dan says, hey, Tom, hope you're well. And chat, Danhausen is on the releases to go from AEW and also another trying to find it out. Interesting, Dan. Interesting. I've not heard anything about Danhausen myself, but so far, you've been pretty good at this stuff. Joey says, do you think it's contract related with Cross being off TV? More on that shortly. Declan, it's not Cherry Coke, it is Iron Brew. Hector says the problem before Triple H was in charge was depth and lack of lower talent around. Now that seems to be more of a reality again. I think the likes of The Miz, Carlito, Truth are helping get people over. Yet Triple H really wanted a wider grouping. He wanted more options and people lower down the card. But we're starting to get people stuck. People trapped in NXT for a long period of time and people who don't necessarily have an obvious route to their future. That's the intention. Hello, Billy. Good to see you. Ken says the only one safe are Roman's family. No, there's plenty of people safe. Calvin says, are only veterans leaving the company right now? No. Everton said, advertise for Raw tonight. CM Punk versus AJ Styles versus El Grande Americano in a Money in the Bank qualifier. CM Punk is asked to out of El Grande Americano. He's really enjoying that storyline. Stephanie Vaca versus Liv Morgan versus Ivy Nile. I'd love it to be Stephanie. I really would. KJ, to be clear, they're not looking to cut him. The discussion happened before the announcement of a new deal. They discussed whether or not it was worth giving him a new deal. Clearly they agreed with that. As I say, discussed, didn't think it likely. Ken says, hey Tom, is WWE still high on Liv Morgan? Yes, they absolutely are. Christopher Leclerc says, both me and AJ celebrating a birthday. I'm 37 and AJ Styles is 48. Well, happy birthday and many happy returns to yourself. Where was I? Got it. Everton says R-Truth's departure has been met with complete shock and disbelief, with one top talent calling it total nonsense and another calling this regime ruthless via Fightful Select. Not total shock, but certainly a lot of it. Thank you, McCade. Appreciate you for that, heart. As I did mention, though, it is going to be 5 per squat, so please don't be upset if I don't do that. That's also been mentioned in the video. You can actually see the part where I essentially work out the time insane for doing this. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you. Neil says, can AJ Styles be a name that won't get renewed? Last I heard they wanted to sign him again. They do want to sign him again. However, they've not managed to get into full agreement just yet. Just so everyone's aware as well, I want to talk about leagues. You basically go up a league if you are the top 20% in your current league for gifts. Because of the gifts already, we're now in the top 70%, so we're 3/10 of the way to the top. That's how that works. No news yet, Kevin, because nothing's happened, unfortunately. Kieran says, do you think WWE still has big plans for Joe Gacy, or have those plans changed? It's hard to say for certain. It's hard to say for certain because there has been a big gap. But I do believe it's very likely that there will indeed still be plenty to come for the pig. Keep watching that pig, guy. Sid says, definitely thought R-Truth had a job in WWE for life. Decision like that just doesn't seem right, and a clear indication this is anything but a family-run business anymore. Thank you, McCade, once again for the donations. Says, don't worry, you don't need to do any from me. I think the 275 was enough. Well, 2 more already from Ed, so technically we're on 277. Where was Blue says releases are always sad, but if you want new faces, all one needs to leave. If contracts end, that's reasonable, in my opinion. I do much prefer the way WWE are doing it now. Juan says, hey Tom, according to Bailey herself, she posted her boots as if she's retiring or leaving. Can you clarify what it could mean? Could mean that she's back, could indeed mean that she's leaving. We'll have to wait and see. To my knowledge, the plan was Becky versus Bailey at SummerSlam, so I'm not confident of that. I'm really not. I suspect what she's doing is posting new boots. Joey says, is WWE going to clear house with the veteran wrestlers? It's going to get rid of some, or at least let their contracts expire, if they don't believe that the value they're getting from them is worth what they've been paying them. Khalid says, I forgot Money in the Bank is this weekend. It is indeed. Anand says, do you think TKO has a major role to play in people's releases? Yes. TKO is the main driving force behind the releases. Eric says, on the Ariel Hawani show, Cora was talking about she had to go to an emergency surgery, found out she's pregnant. The next night she faced Lyra. Well, if she told the WWE that, she definitely wouldn't have faced Lyra. I don't... medically, they wouldn't have permitted that. Hector says, I wonder how long they've known Truth wouldn't be offered a contract extension. It looks super ingenious with the release of his high-selling t-shirt. As I say, and I've said for a couple of weeks now, John Cena has been doing R-Truth a favour, trying to get him back in the spotlight. The WWE are not convinced. Dan says, I like the way AEW is very silent on the releases that are coming soon. AEW, I actually mentioned this, I think 3 years ago now, has been pivoting to a different style of release system, which the WWE have now followed their lead. Backwards, as regard Omos, WWE just don't seem to want to put him in matches where he could lose to a Cody Rhodes, for example. They look at him as an Andre the Giant style figure. Calvin says, you can absolutely hear fans getting behind certain superstars. I have no idea why WWE isn't paying attention. Billy says, Tom will have some massive legs by winter. Kind of already do. The first 200 hurt. Oh, your live contains themes that some may find uncomfortable and has been restricted for alcohol, tobacco and drugs, none of which I've discussed. Didn't mention any of those, but apparently my live has been restricted. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, TikTok. So helpful. Anyway, we'll keep going. Juan says, with Cora Jade and B. Priestley being open to return to AEW, this could hopefully put the notion away that whoever leaves AEW for WWE will not return to AEW. That's not how that's going to work. There are going to be people who go back and forth. There are going to be people that just sort of make a name elsewhere, come over, make a bit of a bigger name, come over. That's going to be something that happens. Not to the WWE, WCW level, but certainly they'll be getting there. Joey says, why does TKO want all these budget cuts all of a sudden? Because they want to keep their money. Declan says, of all these releases, they need to remove the mid-card titles on the women's division if there's not many women on the main roster. If that's the case, how are we going to get Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaca for the Intercontinental Championship? McKay says, TikTok always does stuff like that. Don't worry about it. It should disappear soon. Dan says, R-Truth looks like TNA, Ron TNA are in good hands. I'd imagine TNA is certainly going to inquire on bringing him back. Yes. KJ, thank you for the clarification on that. And then says there are reports that mentioned a top-tier superstar mentioned R-Truth release as utter nonsense. Who could be that top-tier superstar? Wouldn't know. I certainly haven't reported that myself. We will be mentioning Alexa Bliss. We have someone asking about that on the TikTok side. Alexa Bliss's name will come up as regards our reporting on Evolution. Also, on the TikTok side, we've got 586 likes. That's brilliant. Please keep those going if you can. On the YouTube side, we're on 49, one away from 50. Can you be my 50th? Thank you for the follow on TikTok. Appreciate that. Khalid, we will be discussing the Wyatt 6 shortly. Neil says, basically, if WWE doesn't plan to use you in any way, they won't renew your contract. Yes, which is not a horrible business model. Oh, no worries, Silver Mike, asking, can you explain what cost-benefit analysis is? Right. So, about 5 years ago, I think I first explained this. Nick Khan is a finance guy. And as a finance guy, his job is to basically cut any outgoings that he believes that the WWE don't need to have as outgoings. So if he believes that the benefit to having someone outweighs the cost of having them, he will keep them. If he looks at the cost and believes that the benefit of that person is lower than the cost of keeping them, he'll let them go. Braun Strowman has been caught twice on this because essentially he doesn't sell enough merch, he doesn't appear enough in the eyes of Nick Khan to be worth the money that he's been paid, essentially. Oh, Dad says, who's next for Motor City Machine Guns? Well, there might well be some discussions about Wyatt's 6 soon. But I personally think Motor City Machine Guns would be a great shout to travel to Raw and work with New Day. Liam says they're officially halfway through John Cena's retirement tour, just 6 more months, and the greatest wrestler in the history of wrestling will bid farewell after 23 years. Time is flying. Ken says TKO is pretty much, this is how Vince should have run things, but he was too busy doing naughty things. It was his company and he was entitled to run it basically however he wanted. Also, this happened with Vince there as well. Roy says, is Jordan Grace getting called up to SmackDown? I've seen a report about that. I cannot confirm at this point. Sean says, hopefully some of my favourites like Seth, Alexa and Becky aren't some of those names on that cost-benefit analysis. The analysis will include a lot of names, but the actual list will be people who do not meet the criteria. Kieran says, do you think WWE view Uncle Howdy Bo Dallas as more of a manager, or will he be wrestling more often in the future? They want him to wrestle. However, there has been a number of injuries and creative issues, apparently. Cal says, hey Tom, sad to see anyone lose their job. Wish both guys well. Always hope you and the family are well. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I wish them much the same. Sean says, I'd like to see Stephanie win tonight, Tom. I hope so as well. Stephanie Vacker, for me, is the obvious choice to pick up that win, and I'd be really excited by it. Neil, I do not have that information, unfortunately. Cal says, also in June 2024, Tom reported on spoiler warning, multiple masks made for Howdy, and we've seen multiple masks now. Yeah, there were a lot of them made. Gotcha, KJ. Thank you for clarifying. Always appreciate when people fact check. It's really helpful for me. Sid says, do you see R-Truth going to AEW or TNA or retire? I think TNA would be happy to have him. Danelle says, hard to be a veteran under the TKO era if R-Truth is gone. True. Sean suggests pull-ups. Because there's nothing for my pull-up bar to really connect to. Wouldn't quite work. Joey, what do you mean glitched, mate? What are you meaning? Anand says, there are reports saying that Cora and Dakota have received some offers from some wrestling companies. What do you think? Where do they end up? I'll wait and see on that one, to be honest. I'd be surprised if anyone did not offer them something. Hello, BM. Good to see you, mate. One says, R-Truth with the Hurt Syndicate, maybe. I find that unlikely. In Cora's interview, she was asking about TNA. She said that with TNA being so involved with WWE, she wants to distance herself from that. Do you think this could continue to hurt TNA in the future? Yes, if people don't want to be involved. It already hurt them with Mustafa Ali. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. We did get up to 57, 3 away from 60. So yeah, plenty of people were my number 50, and I appreciate you for it. Bailey says, I'm not sure about the reference earlier of Bailey in a pair of boots as being suspicious. Posted a photo on Instagram of her wearing yellow boots at the Royal Rumble. Cal says, unfortunately, Truth is a great guy, but he's 52 and he's not an important guy in the roster, never has feuds, rarely has matches, easily replaceable. It's a sad fact, but it is a fact. John Cena's already going, Ms. Awesome, and offers a lot more to the WWE than R-Truth does. That's why. We will be discussing that in a moment, Sid. Carl says, the Wyatts follow Howdy, he leads the path, and they follow it. Khalid is excited by the idea of the Motor City Machine Guns moving to Raw. Dylan says the likes of Roman, Seth, Jey, and every other big merch seller essentially aren't on the chopping block to be released. I cannot sit here and confirm anything. I've not seen the lists. I just get occasionally told who was or was not on it. Cal says, Tom, how cool is this Joe Gacy threw Fraser to Howdy for his sister Abigail on Friday. Watch the pig. Michael says, need Dakota to hurry up and go to AEW. I'd be very excited for it. Very excited for it. Bailey says there are over 100 WWE performers across Raw and SmackDown. When no more than 15 or 20 is seen per show, it leads the cost cutters to start looking down the list. Aaron says Stephanie winning means she'll be wrestling at Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank. Respect to her if she's doing that. I find it unlikely, but not impossible. Neil says I can see R-Truth going to TNA. Declan says about the veterans, how will the new wrestlers learn? There will be a new generation of veterans such as CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. Anan says, any update on Kevin Owens? Did he undergo surgery? I've not had any confirmation there. Error of Penta says, where there's smoke, there's fire, which historically, not always the case, because WWE did not, in fact, get sold to Saudi Arabia. Joey says, I feel like John Cena's title reign has fallen flat recently. Typically, the second someone has the championship, things start to sour. Yes, Autumn, we will be discussing the Wyatt 6. And the most recent update on the draft was during Friday's show. Please check that out. I don't doubt that, Ms. Awesome. I do agree with what you're saying there. And unfortunately, it's something that comes up more often than not. Carl says, did you see Howdy's vignette? We won't stop till we get what's owed. I like that they are targeting everything and anyone. Calvin says, Karrion Kross and Austin Theory getting hella cheered non-stop on main event. KJ says, no, mate. No, KJ, I'm not being beaten up. That's not happening, mate. No. Don't you worry about that. If I do get stressed out or annoyed by it, I will let people know. Okay? Nobody's beating me up. People just want information, and that helps me to know because it helps me know what questions I should be asking. That's all it is. Don't you worry. Kieran says, does Jon Moxley ever intend to come back to WWE? He's openly considered it at times, but at no point has he said, I'm going to do this. Well, certainly that I know. Neil says, how does Triple H feel with someone go these releases? Neil, would you be able to clarify what you mean there? I don't quite understand. Ken says, no house shows also mean less need for lower card acts, so that's a factor. Paul, for the men's and women's, honestly, I'm going for Seth and Roxanne. Works for me. And when you start a report with someone posted on X, I'm going to stop reading. Cal says, every big business has a cost-cutting list. Who's replaceable, who's not, who makes profit, who doesn't. Yep, exactly that. This is standard business and something that Nick Khan was brought in to make happen. Harris says, what do you think happens on SmackDown with Solo and Jacob? The feud is coming. And personally, I do think Solo is the one to win the United States Championship, allowing Jacob Fatu to go up the card. Neil, I cannot really respond to that. Triple H's thoughts are his own, and he's loath to share them with many people. Next piece of news, because we do have plenty of it. I've discussed that. Let's talk about Logan Paul and John Cena. The Logan Paul and John Cena pairing didn't come out of nowhere. We knew there was discussions about the John Cena-Travis Scott combination, and Logan Paul was there to really elevate the World Heavyweight Championship. And that is one of the things that the WWE is trying to do right now. John Cena appearing rarely, including time taken off for Cody Rhodes, with an intention of giving the World Heavyweight Championship a chance to shine, an opportunity in the spotlight, and of course a main event for Saturday Night Main Event at least. Now, Jey Uso is unlikely to be a champion for years upon years. He's unlikely to be a champion all that long, and honestly, I've got my eye on Jacob Fatu coming over and taking it from him at around this time next year, but he's here for a good time, not a long time, and I suspect there will be a number of people eager to take this championship away from him. So they're trying to shine as much of a spotlight as they can. The combination of John Cena and Logan Paul is also designed to keep cheers going to Cody and to keep boos going to John Cena, which is why they were really heavy up their own arse on SmackDown. The WWE heard Cody Rhodes being booed. They heard John Cena getting cheered, and they wanted to guarantee that the right people in their eyes were getting the right reception. Logan Paul guarantees the exact reception that they were looking for. Yes, Everton, there will be a Money in the Bank watch along. We'll be watching it in full if you want to check that out. Harris says, who do you think the Tongans will side with? Personally, at the moment, I'm going solo. Harris says, do you think we get some interference in John and Logan versus Jey and Cody? And who do you think will? I don't know what the end result is going to be of the match yet. Everton says, it's crazy how Gunter's World Championship run hasn't been as good as Jay's one so far because it was more spaced out and less intense. Sean says, my picks for Money in the Bank are men's LA Knight and women's Julia. Bear says, Tom, you're the best. Please keep doing these. We'll always support you. I appreciate you for saying that. I'm not planning to go anywhere. Not at least anytime soon. KJ thinks it'll be LA Knight and Roxanne. Sid says, would you like to see Dean Ambrose back in WWE? No, but I'd love to see John Moxley. Cal says, you risk having rosters which are bloated. The main spots will have the same people. You need to change the lower cards every few years. Sean says, since they've been teasing it, do you see Julia versus Zelina Evolution for the women's US title? I think that would be a great time to make that happen. Error of Penta saying, it's funny people saying they want Vince back. Nobody in here is saying that. Absolutely nobody. Hector says, why do I feel like the way they're going to write off Carlito is due to the Finn pinning the addition of Roxanne to Judgment Day on him or something weird like that? Cal says, people saying things like Logan doesn't do anything. He does. He brings a lot of eyes to it via social media clips. Everton says, since the tag match is in the main event, both world championships down, Seth cashes in and takes both titles. Would be cool. Not going to happen, but would be cool. And certainly this would be a great opportunity for Seth Rollins to reveal himself as that third man we discussed. Yeah. Declan says, what if Becky Lynch does a Brock Lesnar move and wins the briefcase? Brock Lesnar didn't win the briefcase as a champion. That didn't happen. Kieran says, will we see further character info on Uncle Howdy? When he debuted, before Bray passed, he controlled Alexa. Since Howdy came back after Bray passed, there's been no info on that or any development. Yeah, they basically rewrote it. Alan says, historically, there's one winner from SmackDown and one from Raw for events like Money in the Bank, Rumble. Both Roxanne and Seth are part of Raw currently. And I said what I said. Ken, speaking for someone there, Sid says, will we see the Usos back as a tag team in the near future? Near? No. Far? Yes. Wherever you are, definitely. Billy says, I could see Roxanne trying to help Liv win tonight and then Raquel messing up, costing Liv the win. Dylan says, since Night of Champions at the end of June, do you see Cena versus Jey or Logan since the two stories work? I think Cena versus Jey is already being built towards. Sean says, I'm sorry if this makes people upset. It's not going to. But I think WWE returned Bianca in her hometown to avoid her getting booed. Yeah. You are correct. Sid says, would you like to see The Undertaker have one more match? Hell no. Calvin says, predictions for Money in the Bank, Seth or LA Knight and Stephanie or Naomi. Not really a prediction. Dylan says, hang on, weren't you saying Seth was the next World Heavyweight Champion? Why are you now saying it potentially could be Jacob? Well, because I'm thinking of multiple different options. I think Seth's a logical choice, but I certainly think we could still be going into a World Championship feud eventually of Jey versus Jacob this time next year. I'm allowed to enjoy. Cal says, I think Alexa will be on top of the ladder and the lights will go black. We'll see on the Tron Alexa turning on the Fiend. Then she'll be pushed off the ladder, starting the Wyatt Six and Alexa getting together. More on that shortly. Everton says, what if the lights go out? Travis Scott appears, wins Money in the Bank, and ruins Wrestling Cena's plan. Then that will happen. Kevin says, why WWE never do Saturday night's main event? John Cena versus R-Truth, but if R-Truth lost, his career is over. Well, because at that point, they hadn't told R-Truth. Error of Penta said, Ludwig Kaiser seems to have vanished. Yes. Ken, never read Twitter. There is no value in Twitter. Joey says, will Bianca ever turn heel? It's currently in the pipeline. Cal says, I love Howdy's character. Resembles real-life emotions, grief, pain, loss, sadness. He's relatable. The mask keeps Bo in it. Allows Bo to use all those feelings. It's so much more than we think. Christopher says, Roxanne Perez and LA Knight are my picks. Dylan, no need to apologise, mate. Don't you worry. So, we're going to get to our next piece of news now. We've had 64 likes on the YouTube side, 127 people currently watching, though we did peak at an outstanding 141. Over 1,000 likes already on the TikTok side, so even though our reach has been limited, I'm appreciative of that. Thank you very kindly to everyone who's already hit like, who's donated with gifts on the TikTok side, who's watched ads, who's basically just been here for company. My next piece of news is as regards, naturally, Carlito. Carlito's contract is also not being renewed. The WWE are cool with that. Many people, and this includes myself, don't really understand what he actually offered, as he barely wrestles and had been paired with Dominic Mysterio because they're friends backstage. There's apparently been a number of occasions where a storyline was pitched and Carlito either wasn't available because of injury or just wasn't really available at the time. So nobody backstage is particularly surprised that Carlito has left the WWE. To be clear, for an update as regards Shinsuke Nakamura, and I did see Fightful commenting on one of my YouTube videos recently to say that Nakamura was not getting released. As regards Shinsuke Nakamura, he has been told that his contract will not be renewed. Yes, he has occasionally been used during that time for losses, but surely after what's happened, maybe basically Twitter handles can stop trolling and then vanishing when they're proven wrong. Okay? Not a great look. Not a great moment. And days later, really quite embarrassing. Where was I? Calvin says, Naomi breaking into Bianca's parents' house is pretty psychotic and an invasion of privacy. Fair enough, Khalid. I'll keep going. Neil asks, has WWE given up on Kaiser? I can't confirm at this point in time. I think they're just looking for a new storyline for him, and it hasn't quite worked. Cal says, I do think we're going to see a huge push for the Wyatts, more over now than when they debuted. DGS is asking about a number of wrestlers who are waiting on new storylines. Kevin says, how long will SmackDown stay? 3 hours? This has been a really interesting one because personally, I don't know. But I'm seeing a whole lot of people who do know and then also apparently know when they're wrong, but they're not wrong. Interesting. Ray says, when do you think Goldberg will have his retirement match? I keep hearing soon. Dylan says, would it be for the WWE title or the World Heavyweight when they face each other at Night of Champions? Won't be. It won't be. Hector says, Tom, do you happen to have any news on Ilya? Seems like he's been out for a while. He has been, and to my knowledge, he's not yet cleared, but should be returning to WWE relatively soon. Kevin says, Carlito won a title outside WWE last week. Yeah, because he was told a while ago that he will not be renewed. Ray, haven't seen much of Robert Stone's wrestling, but I like his promos. Ron, that was a joke, just so you know. Everton says, I finally get to see a Punk Styles match, but still waiting for that 1v1, hopefully, a Clash in Paris. Interesting. I'd be there for that. Anand says, on a different note, what's your schedule regarding the spoiler warning show? It's been a long time since I've been following up. What do you mean? Spoiler warning schedule has not changed in any way, shape or form. Yes, KJ, there was an option to extend for a third year. WWE did not want to take it. Ron? Weird question. Triple H will bring who he wants to bring. Basically. Calvin said, did Gunter find out he's going to be losing to Jey next week? Do you mean, did he find out the result of the match plan? It's McCade. I do not have any news on Kiana James. At the moment, there just doesn't seem to be anything happening there. Blue says, Carlito always felt like a weird signing just done because of one reaction. And I don't know, Sean. I don't follow those particular storylines. Yes, Ron, Carlito is a nice person. I met him myself in the PCW days over here in the UK. Nice guy. Weird signing. Evolution 2 is now formally being announced by the WWE. And it was a surprise to a lot of women. I've reached out and found out a bit more about this. Evolution 2 is a shock to most women on the roster, with the exception of a small number who either needed to save the date or have limited date contracts and needed to be sure they couldn't book it. Of those people, I'm told that Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss and Trish Stratus were all on the list of people to be kept informed about Evolution 2. The show itself hasn't been met with much applause, with one person backstage in WWE telling me that WWE might use the show as an excuse to feature women even less. So there are some concerns that Evolution will be used to keep women off PLEs and off Raw and SmackDown because of them having a unique women's only show in the build-up. There is some fear backstage in WWE about that potentially happening. Ray says, when will WWE be returning to a UK PLE when the UK are willing to pay for it? Khalid, I appreciate that. Oh, Anand, it's right there, mate. It's right there. On screen, right there. Neil says, wonder why Gunter deleted all WWE related stuff from social media. You got me. Gunter's definitely not going anywhere. He signed a new contract relatively recently. Could be that he just wants to get people talking because, hey, that's what you got to do in WWE sometimes. Wyatt 6. I know plenty of people are waiting for this one, so here's the news for you. The Wyatt 6 have indeed entered the tag division, as I've spoken about last week, and they've entered it in pursuit of gold. They are going after individuals such as DIY, but the WWE are apparently open to the Wyatt 6 winning championships as a way to bring them sort of down to earth as regular wrestlers with regular commitments. There is a plan at current for Alexa Bliss to align with the 6, and that is currently being put into action. But, as I've mentioned before, it is a loose alignment or a brief alignment rather than a full, I will have my career defined by this commitment from Alexa Bliss. She's very interested in working with them. She is not interested in becoming a one-trick pony character, and she will eventually be leaving the Wyatt 6 to pursue her own goals as an individual women's wrestler. So she's not going to come in, be in charge of them, and her entire storyline will be about them. There is plenty more that will be happening with Alexa Bliss. Kieran, yes, I do agree. I expect that to happen as well. No, Cal, though they are on the same show, so that's going to happen. Blue says, that fear about Evolution is one I share. With Saturday Night Main Event the night before, no chance of a women's match on it. Ray hopes that Natalya wrestles at Evolution 2. I do expect that to be a battle royal. Sean says, Tom, I was told we wouldn't get Evolution again without Ronda. She was apparently the reason we got the first one. To be clear, she was. WWE, in particular Vince, didn't believe a women's show would work without someone the name, brand and level of Ronda Rousey. Vince McMahon is gone. Ray, interesting question. I'll have to do some research on that one. Calvin says, I can see Nikki going for the women's US title, if not going after Tiffany. Anand says, what's the use of Evolution anyways? WWE haven't booked women properly even in weekly shows. With Evolution, WWE are going to screw them more, as they would be only used for Evolution for major stories, which is the concern I've just mentioned. New believes Alexa Bliss's endgame is going to be Charlotte Flair. And I've just shared the news, and you're now asking for more. I need you to understand that I've told you what I can. Michael says they did the woman dirty by putting Evolution in an arena a block away from a Beyonce concert. Yeah, I've heard about that. Not great. That will be a really busy town, though. Kieran says, I don't see how Evolution is going to feature a lot of women, though. Will be both main titles, IC and US, and probably tag belts. Once again, my expectation will be a battle royal. a battle royal. That is how they featured a lot of women at the last Evolution, after all. I don't really know, Ray. Cal says, it's so cool we have the Wyatt 6 back. WWE will be over the moon with the reaction for them. They are indeed. Backward says, do you think Chad Gable will win the AAA Championship at Worlds Collide? No. Declan feels sorry for the women's division. They don't feel sorry for themselves. Keyshawn says, when is the tag team division going to be good again? On SmackDown, it already is. Ray says, who would you like to see on WWE's 2K game front cover? I think there's some very good options of people who are relatively new on the up. Jey Uso. I want Jey Uso to be on the cover. And Kieran says, any plans on any other members joining Seth, Heyman, Braun and Bronson? I do believe I was the only one to report that Seth was currently still picking people to join his faction, and I saw plenty of people say that there was going to be no one joining his faction. He's still making his choices, but the only thing I can report is what I've already reported. It is likely to grow, and it will only be people handpicked by Seth Rollins. No, Sean, there's plenty of women in WWE that I think will be getting the choice. No, Dylan, I think you're right. It is not likely that Semi will turn heel now. Balor Club podcast says, hey Tom, any update on when WWE will announce a location for WrestleMania 42? They need to agree one first, and at the moment, they've not done that. Hector says, didn't think we'd ever see an Evolution 2. Maybe there's hope for another Cruiserweight Classic after all. I mean, why not? We've got the people. Might as well use them. Karrion Kross. WWE are said to have challenged Karrion Kross to be worth a new contract. At the moment, he seems to be heading towards being released unless he's able to connect with fans without any support from WWE Creative or TV. And to be clear, when I say connect with fans, in a way that the WWE believe is worth investing in. Some big names have clearly lost faith in him at some point, but overall, I'd say he has been proving people wrong for a long time and is well worth a little TV time to help him on his way. I disagree wholeheartedly with those in WWE who are not giving this man a chance, but with his contract so nearly expired, it may be that they're simply not interested in doing so. Where were we? Cal says the Wyatt 6 released a code around a year ago about... is that Kitsune you're trying to say? I'm not sure what that is. Ken says WWE could be 3 hours every night. I'll be watching SmackDown. Thank you, McCade. Appreciate you. KJ says, why so many people acting like they're one of the women in the locker room? People get excited. Cal says, Karrion Kross is so over, he's getting the loudest reactions on Raw. He's not. He's not getting the loudest reactions on Raw. That's not happening. Backward says, is Jacob Fatu going to become the tribal chief? Because he's definitely heading for a face turn. Yes, I've been reporting on that for a few months now. Sean says, I think Karrion got support over a promo he cut about being a good soldier gets you let go. And Calvin says, I have a feeling this could be the reason Karrion wasn't being used. Kieran says, Karrion's character work has always been great. It's McCade has dropped 5 gifts on the TikTok side. Thank you, it's McCade. And of course, as I mentioned, 5 will get you a squat. Now, you previously gave 4, so I'm going to give you 2 for the benefit of the doubt. Oh, even though that makes me very uncomfortable and gives me a lot of pain. But I'd imagine we haven't seen much of you during this show because you've been watching me create the pain that I'm now living. Who do you think will win, Bianca or Jade? Jade, then Bianca. Appreciate you, McCade. I was willing to give you benefit of the doubt, but I appreciate you for that. Where was I? There. Neil says, is WWE blind? Kross is already over. WWE do not agree. You've got to remember, it's not just about things like Twitter. Christopher says, I totally forgot JC Jane was born on June 2nd. Cal says, to be fair, they had a perfect feud there for Kross, but they fumbled it last year. Billy says, Karrion changing his hair to match whoever he's interacting with is something that makes me laugh. Calvin's predictions for Money in the Bank qualifiers are Stephanie and CM Punk. Cal suggests they could always let Kross wrestle. I know, what a ridiculous concept. You could let a wrestler wrestle. Sean suggests Rhea and Io get the loudest reactions on Raw. Are we gonna mention Jey Uso at any point? Mention Jey Uso? Just gonna throw that in there. Dylan says, how come they're not even giving Truth a Legends contract? He doesn't have to show up all the time. Because the Legends contracts are being considered at this point. Kevin says, if WWE don't give Kross an opportunity, Kross needs to say, I need to bet on myself, but not WWE. That may be why a new contract has not yet been signed. Calvin says, hope we get Theory versus Waller at SummerSlam. Ken says, Kross is over on the mic, not in the ring. You got to be both in today's culture. The Balor Club podcast says, could we get a Finn versus Dom match for the IC title in the future? Yes, and it looks like we're going to. Hector says, out of curiosity, does WWE help talent book being on podcasts? Only WWE podcasts. Dylan says, I know you're expecting Roman to return after Money in the Bank, and I am too. What if he comes back to cost Seth the Money in the Bank match? Then he would have come back to cost Seth the Money in the Bank match. Blue, all I can say is that Legends contracts are being considered. Nick Khan's got hold of them, and he's considering the viability of them. Doesn't mean anything's going to change. Doesn't mean something might. Ray says, do you think TKO are doing a good job running WWE? A lot of people still watching it. It's making a lot of money. Depends on what you consider doing a good job. As any businessman would tell you, the typical standard of success is money. So, yeah. Sean says, where has the support from Dominic come from recently? Not recently. Not recently. KJ suggesting that Rhea, CM Punk obviously, Jay, Seth, Io, Sammy, Dom, Kross is nowhere near the most over on Raw, but yes, he's over. He did, Blue. He did, and I've shared some reactions to that and some news on that earlier in the show. So, we have been live for 52 minutes. We peaked at an absolutely lovely 142 people watching, 74 likes on YouTube. We peaked at 12 people watching on TikTok, which is a good number and continuing to grow. Thank you for your donations to those who did donate. So a good position when it comes to TikTok. Solidifying a presence in the current league that we're in, not necessarily going up a league, but still in a very good position that I'm very happy with. So, we are going to wrap it up there. I'm going to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined us. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.